Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Well, it's been quite a year for UVM's Proctor Maple Research Center, starting with the center's 75th anniversary. That's how long center staff have been providing research and education on everything from forest health to syrup production. As the year draws to a close, the team at Proctor is joining with the Vermont Maple Sugar Makers Association to co-host the 2022 Vermont Maple Conference. The conference begins Wednesday, December 7th and runs through Saturday, December 10th. Organizers are offering a hybrid conference that will be both online and in person. Topics range from how-to workshops for small-scale producers to panel discussions by leaders in the maple industry. To learn what's going on for the conference, we welcome UVM Extension Maple Specialist Mark Isselhardt. Good afternoon, Mark. It's so good to see you.
Hey, Fran. Nice to be back.
So for health and safety, much of the upcoming conference is online, but there's also a day that is in person. So what are the details, more details of the conference?
Yeah, like you said in the intro, this is going to be a hybrid conference. So we have 3 days of online education, December 7th, 8th, and 9th. Each of those days will have 3 individual 1-hour presentations at 9, noon, and 5. And people can register and attend any or all of those. We're also going to have on December 10th an in-person event at Vermont Technical College in Randolph. We're really excited. The first time since COVID struck that we'll be able to gather together. And what we've learned over the several years of the pandemic is that people really appreciate the ability to learn online, but they definitely miss the fellowship and the sharing that's so important to lots of gatherings. Sugar makers especially love the ability to chat with each other. So much information gets shared just inside conversations, as well as the good research-based presentations that the conference is known for.
Absolutely, that's a great plan that you're going to have this hybrid model. So this conference is put on by UVM Extension and the Vermont Maple Sugar Makers Association. Tell us a little bit about that partnership and how the two organizations work together.
Well, it's a really strong and enduring relationship. UVM Extension has actually been contributing to the Vermont maple industry since way back in Ray Foulds, who is the extension forester. 1949 is when he started the county maple school. So really just an amazing legacy of sharing good quality research-based knowledge with producers. And that's grown and evolved over time, like so many things in our lives. And now we're in this period where we can share up-to-date knowledge online, and we can do it in a way that is accessible to folks. So we're really excited to share the online version. And then these are all recorded, so people can go back if they can't attend online at that particular time. Those videos will be available either at the UVM Extension Maple page or through Vermont Maple Sugar Makers Association.
Fantastic. And of course, this is for all types, small scale, big scale sugar makers, and you are the leader of a session devoted to small scale sugar makers. What topics will you be covering?
Right. So the maple industry is pretty unique. There's a very low barrier to entry. If you get something suits you and you want to jump in, you can put 1 or 2 taps in a tree and make maple syrup. You can really go in full scale. There's really nothing stopping you other than your creativity and maybe the money you're feeling comfortable investing. But the issue is that syrup quality, and we're all part of the maple industry. So regardless of the scale, if you're a few taps or many thousands of taps, the power and the strength of Vermont maple relies on high quality product, regardless of how big an operation you have. So I'm going to be giving a 2-part presentation on everything from tree to bottle and really highlighting what's important, what are the key drivers in making abundant, high quality syrup, really regardless of your size. This particular 2-part session is really targeted to people just getting into it or people who intentionally want to stay small scale. So everything from tree health to correctly judging the density and flavor and clarity and color.
And also, even if backyard sugar makers aren't selling their syrup retail, food safety should always be a priority. So what are the food safety concerns for backyard sugar makers?
Absolutely. And that kind of goes into that point about there's really no barrier to entering the maple industry. You can hang a few buckets, or you could scrounge stuff here and there. The problem is that idea of kind of get by with what you got or being frugal can sometimes lead to unintended consequences, like using materials that are not food appropriate for making food. So some of the galvanized buckets that have lead solder, old pans you may have inherited or found in an outbuilding when you purchased a new place, any of that stuff, or things you find online, they potentially could hold sap and they potentially could allow you to boil, but that doesn't mean they're appropriate for food use. So like I said earlier, sugar makers are really generous with their time and knowledge. And if you have any questions, certainly reach out to me if you have questions about whether or not your equipment is food safe, or if you have a relationship with a local sugar maker, ask their advice, because everyone's in it together. And if there's an issue with potentially unsafe syrup being produced, even if it's just for your family, it's just not worth it. The amount of money you might save by scrounging equipment or finding a good deal online can really end up being more of a liability than anything else.
Really important precautions. And there's actually also a session called Ask the Doctors. So I'm sure that there's a lot that goes on just between people. But for those sessions, who are the doctors and what questions will they be answering?
Yeah, we tried this session last year and it was good success. People liked it. So we have Dr. Abby Vandenberg and Dr. Tim Perkins, the director and assistant director at the Procter Maple Research Center. And this is really meant to be pretty much a wide open discussion. Bring your unique questions. If there's been something that's been puzzling you, or maybe you heard about some research but didn't actually have access to the actual publication, you just heard someone talking about it and you're unclear, or maybe you have an idea about some new process that you think could work, or maybe you just don't, you're curious about a part of the physiology of maple trees. Bring those questions. Tim and Abby are great about answering on the fly, and they'll say if they don't know the answer, or they'll help put you in touch with the folks who maybe do. But this session is really designed to be wide open discussion. Bring your curious questions, and we'll see where it leads.
Okay. So at the in-person event on Saturday, you're going to be testing hydrometers. So quickly, why should sugar makers have this piece of equipment and have it inspected annually?
Right. So hydrometers are a key part of producing high quality syrup. It's a precisely weighted glass cylinder that floats in syrup. And there's very fine graduations that tell you whether or not you're at the correct density, or maybe you need to boil a little bit more in order to keep that syrup high quality and not spoiling. That equipment is very precise, and not every single hydrometer is accurate. Luckily, we'll have the ability for people to bring in their hydrometers, have them tested by someone from the state of Vermont. We'll also be doing a tour of the state testing lab that's part of the Agency of Ag, Food and Markets. This lab tests thousands of hydrometers every year, and they find anywhere from 1 to 2 to as many as 5% of the brand new hydrometers are out of spec. So it's really important that folks have their hydrometer tested and use it appropriately. We've got information on the Vermont Maple Extension website about how to use those pieces of equipment as well.
Okay, Mark, I want to get to your videos because you've made this great set of videos with UVM's forestry program director, Anthony D'Amato. Let's watch one of the videos about the importance of the diversity in the forest.
So when we look at a forest, besides does it have sugar maple, what species are found in that forest, another key attribute we care about is the structure of that forest. So how is the biomass, the leaves, the stems, living and dead, arranged in that forest in different configurations? And what we really often are looking for is how complex is that? Is there a diversity of size classes, a diversity of tree vigor? Is there living in dead trees and different arrangements? And the reason we care about that, both in terms of future change, is that having a diversity of conditions really gives us some resilience mechanisms. But even more importantly, for biodiversity, many of our bird species, many of our other wildlife really respond to those different structures. And so having that diversity really provides a lot of niches for those species in the forest. So when we're managing forests, traditionally, a lot of our emphasis was on emphasizing the structures that produce the products we're interested in. And so a dying tree or dead wood in the ground was historically viewed as wasteful, kind of taking up space or something that we really wanted to clean up from the forest. But we've learned that those have really important functions, both in terms of supporting beneficial organisms like woodpeckers and insectivorous birds that will eat caterpillars that might want to defoliate your trees, but also just provide some important functions like carbon storage and water filtration. And so we recognize that we need those structural elements in our forests. Ironically, sugaring relative to traditional timber production has actually done a better job in some cases of leaving some of those structures behind, particularly cavity trees or trees that are declining, largely because you can still tap those trees, and so you might be able to maintain a tree with some holes in it, or trees that might have some rougher form, largely because it's still productive. Whereas if I cared about timber production, that might be the first tree I historically took out. But for both sugaring and timber production, we now know we need to have those structures out here in the forest. And so behind me is a really nice snag. That tree, if I had harvested that tree when I saw a cavity in it as it was declining, we would have lost the opportunity to have this structure out in the forest that is so critical for cavity nesting birds, certainly biota like fungi, different insects. And so really trying to support those functions in the forest where we can. The challenge to some degree, both with dead wood on the ground as well as standing dead trees, is they certainly provide some operational challenges. Stepping over logs, certainly working around snags can be a bit more challenging than working in a forest with those have, for lack of a better term, been cleaned out. But we know that those challenges are worth the hassle in terms of the benefits they provide for biodiversity.
And you can find out more at the 2022 Vermont Maple Conference that kicks off December 7th and runs through the 10th. You can visit the website on that's coming up right there on the screen at www.vermontmaple.org. Mark, thank you so much for coming in. I know it's going to be an exciting conference, and you also have a day at Randolph. Saturday is going to be in person, right?
Yep, that's right. We're excited to have everyone come and check out the in-person event. There'll be vendors, equipment to look at, and there's lots of information available. If you just want to do the online, it's $20. If you want to do in person, it's $35, includes a lunch, or the VIP pass would be $40. All the online plus the in-person, including lunch.
Awesome.
So,
okay, Mark, thank you so much, and love these little videos. There's lots of more of those online. And
great. Yeah, you can check those out.
Yeah, okay. And thank you all for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.